Oh, hello there, wonderful people. I enjoy Stellaris quite a lot. I would give the game a solid 8 out of 10. So why is Stellaris a failure? Question mark. Well, in that video, I laid out few problems that are, in my opinion, keeping this game from becoming a legendary 10 out of 10. Some of the issues can be remedied by hours upon hours of playing. Therefore, this game has created a very hardcore player base. As with more time spent and more experience, you can create more interesting scenarios while being able to decrease the effect of the negative aspects of the game. Meanwhile, according to this article, on average, video gamer spends astoundingly only 6 hours and 20 minutes each week playing video games. Creates a small problem. A space game as Stellaris requires a huge amount of time commitment. And I agree, not every game is for everyone. However, that doesn't mean that more hardcore games cannot be made more accessible to the average or new player. Of course, it can be done without cutting content that would displease the hardcore community, but by reducing the game problems and reducing the time and effort required to fully enjoy the game. And why you and me should care about more casual players? More players means more money for the companies, meaning better games and more competition. Not only better games for you, but also more people to share your passion with. And therefore, I played more than 30 hours more of this game, spending through 2 exciting playthroughs, and from the things I learned, I'm here to give you some tips to lower the impact of the problems I have mentioned, to help you have a better game, even though you might have less than 3000 hours clocked in. There is a like button to be clicked, but also there's a dislike button. Of course, if you hate this video, and leave in the comments your tips, so the other people can enjoy the game as much as you do. Let's dive right in. Alright, let's dive right now into the first problem and how to fix it, and this one is the micromanagement. First of all, as we all know, the game is filled with micromanagement, but there's few things you can do about it. Especially I'm gonna talk about pop management, because I was wrong. I thought the pop management didn't change much from the previous years. Therefore, I assume it was still extremely annoying. But now in this playthrough, it was much better, because now the organic population can resettle on its own. Being democratic helps, and also building transit hubs boosts this process. Meaning if you have unemployed pops, not counting robots, they will automatically resettle if there is available jobs on another planet. Currently we have none. Therefore now you can focus pretty much on other things, and time to time you will just resettle the robot population. Another thing that helped the population, especially in the late game, sector management. By creating different sectors and selecting what they will focus on, you can, so to say, outsource your management to the AI. If they have enough resources, they will do a decent job of it. But of course, it is not min-maxing. They will make some terrible decisions, but at least you won't have to take care of everything and maybe focus only on your main sector. Okay, some game details that would improve your gameplay. Now here I will be mainly focusing on the lag in the game and how to prevent it. And by the way, what do I mean by lag? I'm not necessarily meaning the game is stuttering. The timer is going super slow, so you pretty much cannot enjoy the game. Personally, as I have a decent processor, Ryzen 2700X plus 180 Ti, 16 gigs of RAM, I would still not go above medium galaxy size. Most of the time, especially if you're just starting out. If it is not your goal, you want to be conquering the entire galaxy. So medium is definitely enough. The other thing I want to focus on is decreasing the amount of habitable worlds. Some of the people like it even on lower settings. It's simple, less habitable planets, meaning you will value more those planets that you have. Less planets mean less micromanagement, and also overall less pops in the game, meaning much smoother late game. I put crisis strength on 2.5 because I want it to be challenging. Crisis should be the big finale of your game. Therefore, my tip is don't make it too weak. I would rather have much stronger crisis, which will absolutely destroy me, than have it too easy. Because in one you will meet a glorious end, the other one will be just boring. Also, I pushed the endgame start to be more early, and also the victory year. Honestly, I would love to have the endgame a bit sooner, but at this crisis strength, it was for me too soon. After I defeated the crisis, although it was far past the victory year, I just won and the game ended, so I didn't have to slack or play after I defeated the crisis. This setting made a huge difference for me, and that is the AI aggressiveness. I put it on high. This means that if you have unfriendly neighbor, he will go after you. This will make the early game absolutely insane. And these are the rest of the settings. The AI aggressiveness aggressiveness on high is especially fun in the beginning. As I played on the Commodore difficulty, in my first playthrough I started with 2 enemies on 2 sides and they would not fight on my terms. From the point when we touched borders, they would attack me immediately because pretty much they had superior forces and I had to rely on choke points and a good defensive strategy. This tip is about the luck in the game and the problem that there's sometimes nothing to do. AI on aggressive pretty much meant that I had constantly fun in the early to mid game. Sadly, in my opinion, you still have to be lucky. What I mean by it, in the first playthrough, as there are 2 enemies, if I had any higher difficulty than Commodore, I would be crushed. But in my second playthrough, there my neighbors were quite friendly, so I had to go to war on my own without being in any huge danger, which meant maybe Grand Admiral would be much more suited. As I want to have exciting early game, I would love to have at least 1 enemy or aggressive AI against me. But as you have a lot of things to do in the early game is good in this game. And now we come to the mid game or game before crisis. Let's hope you have challenging enough crisis. Now you have to put everything into preparing for that crisis. Hopefully you are on your lucky side and the mid game events will keep you occupied. In my second playthrough, a crisis spawned well over the end game year, which at that time, if I was not recording this for the video, I would probably quit because it took such a long time for the end game crisis to come. Well, I kept myself occupied and built every mega structure in the game, but I'm here to tell you how you can try to mitigate this luck. Apart from making the game harder, you can also roleplay. Stellaris, amazing game for roleplay. Create an empire, for example, that wants to purge the galaxy, which will make your mid game, in my opinion, much more exciting because you will have your set call of purging everything till the crisis comes and maybe after that. Therefore, you won't have to get super lucky and depend on the events as much. Because if the endgame crisis doesn't come, you still can purge half of the galaxy before that. So role-playing and focusing into your empire, living it through, will definitely improve your experience. And now the crisis comes, it's super hard because you have set it that way to be challenging or even impossible. One tip I have for you, I think you have to understand the basics of the combat, because in these 2 experiences I had, the crisis fleets were heavily specialized, meaning that they have insane weaknesses and insane strength. For example, in my first playthrough I played against Unbidden, which are fully shielded enemies, meaning you had to have very strong anti-shield damage or damage that ignores shields. The second playthrough, I played against the Scourge, which had an insane amount of armor and hit points, so I had to use weapons that deal high level of armor and hull damage. Crises will spawn insanely powerful fleets, so without understanding these mechanics, you will get wrecked, because most probably they will have bigger fleets than you, and they will have more of them, and they will most likely zerg you down. Therefore, you have to play smart and have the right ship design. As for the there's too much to learn problem, there's not much to do. The game doesn't have a great tutorial, so I guess you will have to binge watch a bunch of tutorials for Stellaris. And maybe this opinion of mine might be a bit controversial, but I think you should learn the game and study it on YouTube. Like, not spoil yourself on the discovery, but you have to understand the game mechanics, because there are things that happen to you in Stellaris. If you don't understand what to do about them, will be extremely annoying and will make you quit the game. For example, me not understanding that so much changed about the pop management, I found it still extremely annoying and I pretty much lost interest in the game. Or, in my opinion, if the crisis comes and you don't understand the ship combat, how countering damage works, the crisis will steamroll all over you without you having chance, so the game won't be challenging, it will be rather impossible. And I think the fun from the challenge is when the enemy is super hard, but you know the way how to beat him, and now it's a clash and it's exciting. So search up for tutorials on colonies and definitely combat. Alright, we already mentioned difficulty, but now let's breeze through it to revise. In my opinion, it's much better to overshoot the difficulty and make the game too hard, so you will have a lot of challenge and eventually lose, but it will be exciting rather than having much lower difficulty and the game becoming super dull. I think the worst phase of Stellaris is when you think you have no challenge left. You're not against time limit like crisis comes. You have to have the game challenging. Put the difficulty 1 higher than what you think you can handle. and put the AI on aggressive. But I heard a bunch of mod increase the difficulty, but I also heard that there will be increase in the difficulty of the AI, and maybe it will happen sooner than later. And maybe it's a good idea to play on Iron Man so you don't feel tempted to save scum. So if you do these things right, you might get some exciting games. The first playthrough ended with a big war. The galaxy was burning down and our empire sadly fell due to the pressure of the unbidden. Slowly they chipped away, and once they burned the entire galaxy to the ground, there was just so many fleets to be handled. Even though I pretty much lost, this was really exciting because there was just that glimmer of hope. The second playthrough, the Scourge came, and this time I was more prepared, but might say it was still challenging. This battle took some time. It just spawned these fleas again and again, and after a long time spent, we extinguished by bombing the last infected planet. So why is Stellaris a failure? Because it is capable of being much more. Things like improving the learning curve, improving the AI, late game performance, and adding into the mid game more impactful events could make this game amazing. For example, the learning curve is, in my opinion, better in Hearts of Iron 4, which is also a game by Paradox and a grand strategy game. And I don't think anybody would say the game is simple. And even this is not perfect, because I got Hearts of Iron 4 for my dad's birthday a long time ago, and he didn't pretty much touch it because it was too complex, and he stuck to his Civilization game. Seen my videos a few times? Consider subscribing, write your opinions down below, and I will see you next time. Take care.